Fieger, Kenny, Johnson, and Giroux was founded over 50 years ago by Jeffrey's father, Bernard Fieger, in a small house which stands as the cornerstone of Fieger Law. Today, the firm is an 18-lawyer litigation machine. Multi-million-dollar verdicts are both expected and the norm. The firm operates in a 40,000 square foot elegant complex with 60 employees occupying a quarter of a mile of land in Southville, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. Jeffrey Fieger joined the firm in 1979 and has been responsible for much of its growth, continuing the founding vision. As advocates for the people, it's important to fight for a cause. We must fight for the rights of victims and champion the underdog against corporate power and greed. Fieger Law has built an international reputation by securing more record-breaking verdicts and settlements than any firm in the country. There is a history of representing high-profile cases, notably Dr. Jack Kevorkian, the Jenny Jones trial, and others. In every case and with every client, the Fieger 18-lawyer litigation machine devotes themselves to getting justice for their clients. They are tireless and fearless champions for those whose rights have been violated, and the lawyers that lawyers hire when they get in big trouble. Today, the Insider Exclusive will visit with this amazing 18-lawyer litigation team and their important support staff. Hi, I'm Steve Murphy, and this is the Insider Exclusive, live from the Fieger Law Firm in Detroit, Michigan. I am very pleased to present two of the finest lawyers in America, two of the partners in the Fieger Law Firm, Jeffrey Fieger.
Hi, Steve.
And Ben Johnson.
Hi, Steve.
Welcome to the show. Tell us what makes your law firm so great.
Well, listen, I don't refer to it as great. I think that what you see is what you get. We speak by virtue of our experience and our results. And so I'm not into self-aggrandizement. I will tell you what makes our law firm unique is that we have tried some of the biggest cases in America. The results, again, speak for themselves, but we take cases that we believe in. We're in a lucky position where we get to pick and choose the cases that we want to take. That means that no one is excluded. From the littlest case to the biggest case. If I'm not interested in it, if Ven's not interested in it, we're not taking it. But if I'm interested in it, if it's a good case, if there's an issue to be resolved or a person to be helped, we're going to take it. We're going to take it for the right reasons. And the right reasons aren't going to be how much money we can make, although that's a consideration when we take injury cases. It's also, is this the right thing for us to do? Are we doing the right thing? We won't take cases we don't believe in, period. I won't take cases. And if I don't believe in them, we're not taking them. And I think Ven feels the same way.
Absolutely. How many cases do you handle at any one time?
It depends. Our offices, we say we have 18 of the best. We have 3 appellate staff and we have 15 trial attorneys. At any one time, all the cases are attributable to me, ultimately, because under the rules of lawyer ethics, I'm the supervising attorney. We have a structure in which Ven, my partner, and Bob Giroux supervise 2 teams. It all then travels up to me. And at any one time, we probably handle among the 15 attorneys somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 to 600 cases.
You have 18 lawyers. We're going to hear from you and Ben and Bob Giroux a little later. How do you select new lawyers to join your firm?
Well, Ven's good at that. I trust his judgment. Why don't you talk about that?
What we do, we're very blessed. And in part, Steve, obviously, is because of Jeff and his reputation and his years, not just here in Michigan, but across the United States. So we get resumes from folks all across the country. And we're very, very selective. And to me, that's why I think that we are the right firm for most people who are injured. Because thanks to Jeff, he has thankfully shown me how to do it. Bob Giroux, our other partner. So the three of us try more cases than most other firms ever try in their lifetime each year. And we do this all across the country. And so what happens is, as a result of it, we know what we want in a lawyer. We look at their ethics, we look at their background, we look at their education and experience. But the best thing we can do is really just talk to them to make sure that they are as committed to people, helping people. And obviously, after we get done with the initial steps, Jeff what he does for a living is talk to people, and that's his call.
You know, ultimately, though, and I don't mean to cut Ben off, ultimately, we're a unique law firm for this reason. We take on insurance companies, corporations, and the government. Those are the three main entities which cause harm to people. The government and civil rights actions, corporations who employ millions of people, and the insurance companies that underwrite this whole thing. From my personal perspective, I have declared war on insurance companies and corporations in favor of the ordinary person in America. So in this corporation, in this law firm, we represent ordinary folks, but we just don't represent them against government. We represent them and take on government. I am committed to that. It's because if we don't do it, who will? Who will protect you? Who will take them on? Who will be your sword bearer? Who will be your warrior?
Right.
Who? The complicit lawyers that wear tassels on their shoes? Who?
Well, we're going to bring on Bob Giroux, and also we're going to be talking to your building manager, Jeff Cope.
Well, he can describe how Fieger Law went from just a house to what we have now, this edifice.
Well, he's hopefully going to show us.
Oh, that's great.
One of the things that makes this entire law firm really hum smoothly is the building manager. His name is Jeff Cope, and I have him here today. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
You're handle the entire building maintenance for this entire law firm, right?
Yes.
All
correct.
35,000 square feet?
All 35,000 square feet.
Now, you've been with the firm for what, about 14 years?
Yes, 14 years.
So the building is, I think, a quarter of a mile long, isn't
Yeah,
it?
block to block, city block to block.
And it originally started with
Just a house.
Jeff's father's house, which served as an office and a house, or just the office?
Just the office.
And it expanded. Now, where we're sitting in the TV studio right now.
Yeah, this is the newest West Wing.
Yes. And Jeff's office is upstairs, correct?
Correct.
In the West Wing?
Yes.
Okay. What are some of the features that I've never been in a law firm that has so many different conveniences as this one? What are some of them?
We have quite a few conveniences here. We have a couple of state-of-the-art kitchens
Yeah.
for the employees.
Don't you have an original restaurant or something here?
Yes, we have the basement restaurant bar of a prominent restaurant down the street that closed,
Yeah.
the Golden Mushroom.
Right. And I understand when you walk in the building, there's some Moroccan lions. There's lions that came from the Moroccan embassy.
Two of them, they were given to Jeff by a friend of his.
Yeah.
And we incorporate them into our vestibule so that the clients can see. And they're nice, very nice.
Great. Your day is a busy day every day, isn't it?
Pretty much, yes. I
You're
go
working, what, six days a week sometimes?
6 days a week, yeah.
And there's a lot to manage here, right?
Yes.
What do
yeah.
you have to do every day on a general basis?
Try to stay one step ahead of Jeff.
Okay. Is that difficult?
Some days, yes.
Okay. Well, you know, we've taken a tour of the building here, and it's a fabulous building. You do a great job.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm pleased to have with me now two of the outstanding members of the Fieger law firm, Bob Giroux, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And Ben Johnson.
Thanks, Steve.
Tell our audience a little bit about why your law firm is one of the best law firms that people can hire if they want to go to trial.
Well, it's a number of things. I mean, there's a culture here where we emphasize learning how to try cases, really investing ourselves in the cases, in the clients that we represent. We roundtable things. We get together, we talk about the best approach in each case. I mean, it's really something we focus a great deal of our working time on. And I think that's a huge part of it. In addition to that, you've got to have talented people. And I think we have assembled an incredible cast of talented trial lawyers. I don't think it's for everybody.
A lot of people get injured. They may contact your firm, because I know in Detroit, for example, you're probably the #1 rated firm in terms of getting the best results. How do you decide to take some cases and not take other cases? What do you look for?
Well, it's the story. It's the people that are asking us for help. It's you just have a feeling that someone needs help, that we can be particularly good at helping them, at arriving at a result,
Right.
and that it's not just the size of the case, but it's really kind of the injustice that has occurred. It's a number of things that make you feel like, I just want to help this person, or I want to help this family, and I want to write something that.
Besides some of the...
Steve, what that does is exactly what Bob was talking about. We as a firm then look at these cases, and one of the things that we take such pride in ourselves for is we get to choose our cases. So somebody calls, we certainly listen to them. We have trained staff. Bob's done a great job of training our staff and getting them all on the same page to look for these cases, but we only take the cases that have merit. Right. And people who are seriously injured, none of this stuff where people act like they're injured or say they are, but we want verifiable, significant injuries, and that's exactly what happens when people are seriously wronged here in this area and across the United States when they call.
So some of the cases that you're handling now, for example, without naming who they are, what are the type of cases and what are the facts surrounding them?
Well, many of the cases are police misconduct or police brutality cases.
Yeah.
Some are jail death cases, because those happen to be, when they are meritorious, they happen to be quite compelling. I mean, abuses of power are things that you want to take part in trying to stop. And oftentimes we have cases where, look, I love the fact that the police are out there for myself and for my family, and most of them are very good persons who are trying to help, but there are bad ones. And the abuses of power and the violation of civil rights is just something that makes us as a group feel very strongly about. So those are cases that we feel particularly strong about. The medical malpractice cases, in addition, so much is hidden, so much is not really told to the families and the persons who are in there getting treatment, and they leave thinking everything went fine and as expected, and that's not the case. So I think as a firm we try to get involved in those also, because we have expertise in it, we know where to look, we know what to dig for, and really how to assess a case and say this should never have happened, or maybe it should have, and we turn down a lot of cases too.
We also, Steve, have a lot of automobile, trucking, negligence actions, anything where somebody is seriously injured or killed, if there's negligence. And the only way we know that is when we investigate. And like I said, Bob has done a great job of helping to set up our intake department for us to really be very careful and only take the best and most meritorious cases.
You have a kind of an unusual background. You were with the firm back in the 90s, early 90s, I think?
Yes.
And you left the firm?
93 and 94.
And you left the firm?
I did.
And the reason you left the firm at that time?
I wanted to see kind of the entire profession. I wanted to see the practice from both sides.
So you went to the defense side?
I did.
The dark side?
The dark side. Jeff said, and he understood, and I left on good terms, and Jeff said I was taking the university approach to the practice of law. I kind of wanted to see. And I tried to explain it to him. I wanted to see what they saw in a case, how they evaluated it, what information they received, and see, what else there was to this practice. I had clerked at a place in Detroit. It was a phenomenal firm for 3 years, and it was plaintiff. It was called Goodman Eden. I left there. I was offered a job here by Jeffrey after I passed the bar, and took it, and it was great, and he had a lot of wonderful things going on at the time.
Yeah.
But it was a situation where it was Jeff.
Yeah.
He was the king. he was the man, and there were 5 of us young associates, I mean, with less than 3 years' experience working on huge cases. And Jeff, because he was also working on huge cases, didn't have time to mentor, didn't have time to really teach you. And, you know, if you know much about Jeff, he's like a genius athlete. I mean, he's a genius lawyer. He doesn't always understand why you can't see things exactly the way he does. He doesn't understand why he has to tell you what to do. He just wants everybody to kind of be at his same speed, and that's difficult.
Sure.
So I was working on cases thinking, wow, you know, I really want to be better at what I do before I go on and try to help people, because I didn't feel like I was helping people. I felt like I was learning on the fly, and that's kind of a dangerous thing, particularly when you're getting these types of cases. Someone asked me, I didn't go seeking out to leave. Someone asked me if they could talk to me about a job prospect, a senior partner at a defense firm. And I said, well, you know, I'll listen to you, but I was pretty happy. And we talked, and probably 3-4 months, and he convinced me to come over to his firm. It was about the mentoring process. It was about how to, you don't learn in law school how to be a practicing lawyer.
Yeah.
And this was an opportunity to learn how to be a practicing lawyer. We spent a lot of time learning about how to do what we do day in and day out.
You made an interesting statement. You wanted to see how the defense sees things.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me, how does the defense see things in these cases? Catastrophic injury, personal injury cases.
It is amazing to me how kind of coldly they approach these cases. I mean,
Are they approaching them coldly because they're being paid by their clients, or are they approaching them coldly because that's what they believe in?
I think everybody working on the defense side in these types of cases kind of gets conditioned to ignoring, you know, the really compelling facts of a case.
Yeah.
And they just kind of go about their business, and I think their attitude changes over a period of time. They have to do what they have to do because they're paid by their client to do so, or they're paid by an insurance company to represent somebody. So that's kind of their mindset. But it's such a business. It's such a numbers game. It is not a person's game at all to the defense side. It is simply about the bottom line, how much money they can save off of what they consider to be the value of the case.
So now, as a plaintiff attorney, when you win a case, you feel 10 times better than any defense lawyer could ever feel, because they don't care about their client too much, do they?
You have to understand that it's not the insurance companies or the risk management people dealing with corporate funds are the ones that are kind of pulling the strings. You know, when I was representing, you know, John Doe and because of his homeowner's policy or his car policy, I felt for that person. I was close to that person, but the person or the entity pulling the strings was the insurance company. And there just isn't any satisfaction really in that. At least it wasn't for me. And there's nothing like the feeling when you've just won a trial for somebody who's been told no by the hospital or the insurance company. When you go into trial with a zero offer, where they're basically saying it's not even worth the cost of defense, and it costs $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to defend these cases at the time of trial. It costs much more than that over the course of the long haul. But when you walk in with a zero offer, and you're just telling your client, look, we'll just do the best we can and we'll put it into the jury's hands, and then you walk out of there with $500,000, $1 million, $2.5 million. You just, I mean, there's nothing like that feeling. There just isn't anything like that feeling.
Yeah.
This is, well, Steve, what I think makes our firm so different than almost any other firm in the country in terms of plaintiff litigation. Bob was a defense lawyer. I worked at the same firm that he went to. I was there for almost 9 years, then came here with Jeffrey. We missed each other by about 2 years, although we worked there together. We have other lawyers. Most of the attorneys in our firm used to work at defense firms. I now know, Bob now knows instinctively what it is that the defendants, their defense attorneys, want to show and do. So we actually outthink them and can outplan them by way of strategy, and our clients benefit from the fact that we know both sides.
Do you find insurance companies, because of your firm's reputation now, do you find insurance companies more likely to settle with your firm rather than going to trial?
Of course.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. When you have a track record like we have developed over the last 10, 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
including all of Jeff's time, I mean, absolutely. And what's more is they'll pay more. And they'll pay more often on these types of cases because, unfortunately, not everybody on the plaintiff's side or the plaintiff's bar is in our shoes, and they can't all afford to go to trial if it costs $30,000, $40,000.
Sure.
So insurance companies know that. I mean, I know how they think. They think, look, this guy's hurting. He's in a small office. It hasn't been a good year for him. He needs a settlement. We're not gonna offer anything really until we start picking the jury. The sweat's gonna start coming down his forehead. We're gonna offer him, and he's gonna jump at whatever we offer
It
him.
brings to mind, remember the movie The Verdict?
Oh, yeah.
With Paul Newman. They said that very same thing about him.
Yeah.
He's a recovering drunk, and he doesn't have any money.
Oh,
But
they look at cases like that. It's
Pardon me?
amazing. They look at cases like
Yeah.
that. It's not about what.
It's not about what the right thing to do is.
Right.
It's a shame, isn't it?
It's horrible.
Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you.
It's been very valuable. There are a lot of cases you win at the trial level. They're appealed. And oftentimes at the appellate court, they're overturned for whatever reason.
Well, the reason is the money.
Yeah.
The appellate courts in America have been politicized. That means that the political powers that be have put judges in the appellate courts who aren't necessarily fair, but represent insurance company interests and corporation and government interests, so that if you win at the trial level and a jury has found for you and you've spent 3, 4, 5 years and millions of dollars, it doesn't mean Bo Diddley, because you get up into the appellate courts and they say, Mr. Fieger, you just won $25 million, we're taking it away from you. And it doesn't have anything to do with the facts, doesn't have anything to do with the law. It has to do with the money.
Yeah. How do you try to avoid that?
Settle.
Settle.
But not settle cheaply. That's another thing. By virtue of our experience, they're afraid. That is, government, insurance companies, corporations are afraid of the publicity. They're afraid of a huge verdict that could get upheld on appeal if, God forbid, we get lucky and one of the appellate courts is fair. So we work against the knowledge that if we get into the appellate courts, decks are stacked against us, but we can't settle for less than a case is worth. And that's always a battle in our firm.
Yeah.
We can only settle what's for a fair settlement. And if you don't do that, we're going to take you to trial and we're going to win a big verdict. Now, could it be reversed on appeal? Yes, it could be reversed on appeal, but it might not be. And the publicity will be terrible.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point there, publicity. And that's where the use of the media really works in your favor.
Well,
doesn't
of
it?
course, that's because of my exposure in the media. Most attorneys couldn't do that because they won't cover most attorneys. They cover me because I've been in the media, the spotlight, so long. I've been covered and been on television for so long. Now there's going to be the movies that come out. So that generates, that's a source that most attorneys, a source of public exposure that most attorneys will never have an access to. And it's unique with us, and I'm thankful for it, but I know that if I'm speaking to most attorneys, they're not going to be able to do what I do in that sense. That wouldn't be fair, right?
Right, and it's important also to note, Steve, that Jeff, on certain cases, or us as a firm, we certainly have had great exposure, of course, primarily because of Jeff, but each case is different. So he's had cases, we've worked on cases together where the family comes to us and say, we don't want to be on television. We don't want you to talk. And if that's what they ask, which is not often the case, but if that's what, we represent people. And if that's what they want, we abide by that.
And that has happened more than once. Ven's absolutely right, where they said, well, one of the we want you, Mr. Fieger and Mr. Johnson, because of your success, but we don't want the kind of publicity that goes along with your success. What can you do about that? And I can simply tell them I don't seek the publicity. They may come because it's me. But in most cases, quite honestly, most of our cases, the media never touches, unless and until, for instance, I win a big verdict.
You were a defense attorney for what, 9 years?
Right, just shy of 10 years.
Before you saw the light.
Right, switch sides.
And you carry with you some very valuable experience about how they operate.
He carries with him some guilt about what he did for 9 years, because how could you in good conscience represent insurance companies against ordinary
Has
people?
he reminded you about that recently?
Only daily. It was
So Mike, I
invaluable.
want to get back to this publicity thing.
Sure.
You got the Fieger firm suing you. You're an insurance company. You don't want that publicity. Geico doesn't want it. Farmers doesn't want it. State Farm doesn't need it, right? That's a reason for them to settle, isn't it?
But more importantly than that, Steve, is remember, these insurance companies actually represent other entities. So it's a company, it's a person, it's a business, and it's those businesses and people that don't want that. Geico, their name's not on a lawsuit, so they may not care. But the person who's being sued cares, because we bring those names we bring these lawsuits in the name of the person who wronged our client, no matter who it is.
Right, the insurance companies rarely are the defendants. They're just the money behind the defendants.
In running your 18-person litigation team, do you have like monthly meetings or weekly meetings, status updates on these cases?
Yes, Ben and Bob handle that.
Constantly. We're interacting with the attorneys on our teams constantly, and even though most of the lawyers on our teams don't need the help per se because they have years and over 20 years of experience, we attend things, we go with them, we talk, and then of course we ultimately report to Jeff, as do the attorneys handling the cases.
And we unfortunately, because of my supervisory role and the rules of professional responsibility that require that, there's a lot of reporting to me that I spend an enormous amount of time literally going over each and every report on each and every case in every important juncture of the case. It's tedious. I like it because it keeps me involved in the cases, so when they finally come up to trial and I'm going to be approached, Jeffrey, are you going to try this case? Are you going to try this case? Is Ven going to try it?
Right.
Is Bob Giroux going to try it, or the individual lawyer going to? That we've all been exposed to those cases. It's a tedious job. But in order to do that, when you're, again, I can't overstate this, when you're at the top, everyone wants to knock you off, and they want to look for a reason to knock you off. And unless you maintain the quality, unless you maintain the involvement that I feel and that I love, you can't do what we do and maintain, be at the top. You just won't do it. It's not an accident we got here.
Yeah.
It's not an accident.
I want to thank you very much for spending time with us today. Outstanding. And we certainly hope to be back again. You got a great firm. Thank you for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at www.insiderexclusive.tv. Thank you.